In the name of the Father and LSD. In the name of religion. Good morning, Mr. Tushar Tiwari. Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Should we begin? Give me a cheer and then we will begin. The show that we deserve. The show that we deserve. Sent the messages. Ready on WhatsApp. Yes, audible, says Mr. Tiwari. Which is great for me. So let's begin. The show that we deserve. The show that we deserve. The show that makes everything worth it. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum bum bum. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. Just when you thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines, things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go. But before we go, you got to follow a tradition, right? You know the tradition. You know the sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. I hope you have your beverages in hand. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice or stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. I like some hot water with black pepper in it. And here we go. Nice. Let's do it again. Way beautiful. Sublime. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? It says that you are not alone. It says that we are in this together. Which is a very beautiful thing to say, especially today. Yesterday, obviously, we all know something very bad happened. I mean, it's so sad. You know, the whole blasts and all in Delhi. A lot of people essentially passed away because of that. So thoughts and prayers for all of them. Now, obviously, this is going to be leading to a lot of, problems. It's going to lead to serious escalations. It's already being probed in as a terror activity. So a lot of people, it's going to be a very, very shitstorm kind of a situation now. And also what's going to happen is that it's going to hurt the business, the transactions in every way possible. So, and this could also lead to a lot of ramifications as far as the defense ecosystem is considered. So it's going to be, once again, it could be an Operation Sindhu kind of a situation because, there are links with JEM and so on and so forth. So I don't know how the country deals with it, but I first of all wish everyone, sincere condolences to everybody and including ourselves. I mean, we are citizens of this country, citizens of this city, and it's just so sad, right? Thoughts and prayers to everybody. With that, let's move forward, folks. This is a very interesting time when it comes to the business ecosystem. Dr. Michael Burry said that companies like Oracle and Meta and they are essentially extending on books the life of GPUs and the life of data centers, data equipment by years, leading to inflationary income on their books. So essentially, he said that these people are committing fraud by extending the lifespan of these data centers on their books. So every equipment has a depreciation cycle. So what Dr. Michael Burry is saying, that they are, you know, fraudulently extending the depreciation cycle, leading to more profitability in books, and to the order of $176 billion. He says November 25 is when these things come out. So wait for November 25. This is November 11th, of course. And according to him, this is gonna be a big situation. Uh, that's Dr. Michael Burry. Yet, despite his announcements and despite his war of words with Mr. Alex Karp, uh, Palantir stock is up 8.5% today. That's what's happening with Palantir stock. So Palantir stock is not going anywhere. Nvidia is also up. That means that his short is almost covered, right? It's not really done a lot. At the same time, every signal that said whatever it said right before, when it comes to the inherent risks and the inherent problems, they're intact. Uh, while at the same time, Mr. Trump says that he's gonna sign a deal with India. They don't love me right now, but they will. They will. We are signing a fair trade deal. Now, fair trade deal, you don't know what it means, right? Is it fair for America? Is it fair for India, right? But they're looking at signing a deal. At the same time, Replit, the founder of Replit, says that India has a lot of potential to do innovation, standalone innovation, instead of being an operations outsourcing shop. And he says that IT companies will lose out on a lot of money because AI's cost advantage has sort of plateaued in when it comes to lower quality or lower stake work. That's Replit. So if you talk to IT guys, they say AI hasn't had any improvement in terms of productivity. It's still 8%, 6%, 10 to 15% is a distant dream. But these guys sort of push. So it's a war of narratives. Anyway, the risks hang. Yet when the risks hang, there was a technical bounce back in the Nifty IT play, right? Because people thought that that companies, essentially all these companies, are looking at a bottoming out of the whole play, right? So that's what's happening. In a lot of ways, it's very interesting, but also very confusing. Gold went up. So while AI went up, the stock market went up, the US stock market, gold also went up. Also, these people are talking about 50-year lease mortgages. They're extending the mortgages so that you can pay. Essentially, the debt is being rolled over in a lot of cases. So the tech guys, they're boosting their profitability by rolling over the expenses on the data center, decreasing their depreciation cycle, and so on. So it's very, it's information coming in from all angles. So if you look at the US conversations, right, the Democrats are saying that the economy is not doing well, the US economy, and they have points and they have some logic, some valid points. The Republicans are saying that the economy is doing really well, and they also have a lot of, logic on their side. So data, two movies on the same screen, nobody knows what's happening. That's pretty much the situation. So if you're looking at somebody who's very sure of where it's gonna go, that person probably doesn't have total ideas of the situation, right? That's what's happening. Russian-Ukraine war is on. Now we are looking at even more conflicts, right? Because Ukraine is asking for Patriot missiles and so on and so forth. So in every way, this is a perplexing situation, right? That is the macro level. When it comes to micro, let's dive into India's micro, right? GA, that is private equity players, General Atlantic guys, they are investing some money, $282 million in Balaji Wafers. Balaji Wafers is a Virani Khandan promoted company, Virani family, Gujarat based. They say, the founder says that the new generation essentially had this secondary and they wanted to bring in the private equity players to scale up and everything, right? The company is valued at about $4 billion as compared to $10 to $12 billion of Haldiram's. right? That's what's happening with Balaji. A lot of private equity action happening in uh, even venture capital action happening in the FMCG space. Why do you think this is happening? Because the overall mood of the Indian market has changed, right? When the consumption was essentially sluggish, uh, these companies weren't as hot. I mean, I'm not talking about Haldirams and Balaji specifically. These companies were always hot. They were doing really well, but the overall environment was not that hot. Now everybody wants a piece of this action because the consumption patterns look good, right? So that's what's happening with General Atlantic and Balaji Wafers. So at this moment, the company is valued at $4 billion. A question. First, the number of players will rise and then consolidation, says Mr. Duncan1436. Good morning, boss. Good morning. Well, if you're talking about uh, if you're talking about consolidation in the FMCG space, that happens when it comes to the venture funded smaller organizations growing like a D2C brand or something of that sort. But if you're talking about Balaji and Haldiram at that scale, 4 billion, 10 billion, that's not where consolidation happens. So these are the this is a very big scale. So if you're looking at this scale, it's not a joke, right? So you can't expect consolidation when it comes to companies like Haldiram's, Balaji, or let's say MTR, and so on and so forth. So these companies are huge. Mr. Peeyush Sethi says, "Good morning. Just joined in and don't know if it was already discussed, but really hope everyone is safe." Yeah, we discussed that, Mr. Sethi. Uh, I'm sorry. I mean, it's just very, very hard. And it's so sad because, we live here. So we live here. And something like that happens, and life is just, very unpredictable. But people are catching it. So let's see what happens. This is going to escalate as we talked about. So let's. SBI, PNB readying the M&A strategy. Now, why do you think SBI and PNB are readying the M&A strategy? We've talked about this. We've discussed about this. RBI has allowed banks to participate in the M&A play, right? So M&A, which was not a banking operation, now it is going to be 12 lakh crore worth of action is going to be open to banks. This is why they are looking at, now you're going to look at a lot of banks also participating in an M&A play, right? And the tweaks are going to lead to some real financing deal making action, and ease of capital access will be is going to help the M&A play. M&A is very important, right? It leads to a lot of consolidation, as somebody pointed out, and it also leads to better exit opportunities for investors who are stuck in deals, right? Sometimes what happens is, because of lack of secondary market, because of lack of market depth and appetite, companies and investors get stuck in their investments and there's no exit for them. This sort of makes the money go round, right? So let's see what happens there. Speaking of listing and M&As and everything, Adani's companies, many companies are going to get listed by 2031. So they have made out plans to list airports, data centers, metals, and roads by 2031. So airports are going to get, Adani airports, they're going to get listed. This is huge, right? Of course, data centers, it's going to lead to a lot of good outcomes for the company and the country, for the investors. Road units as well, there's a lot of action there as well. So definitely, a lot of depth in the market incoming because of a lot of conglomerates, especially in the infrastructure play. And when it comes to infrastructure, that is a predictable business model when it comes to this country, right? And those kinds of listings, they really add a lot of depth in the play. Let's move on, folks. There are reports that smartphones, the sales of smartphones are going to be severely hurted. So Counterpoint Research says that the sales of smartphones are going to be severely hurt as the prices go up, because the input prices have been going up a little. In order to accommodate that, it's going to raise the price, and when it raises the price, the consumer demand will plummet. That is the projection. The projection earlier was, when it comes to the festive season, since people are going to be saving a lot of money from all directions, it's going to lead to good outcomes for smartphones as well. And it did, right? So smartphones saw some jump, but when it comes to after sales, after festive season, the December quarter, it's going to be a bit muted, is what these people are saying, which is once again a long drawn trend when it came to smartphones. So smartphones are stuck at 150, 150, 149, 150, 150, 156, 155, and so on and so forth, million, of course, in a year. So that is what it's going to be for some more time. Speaking of some lackadaisical news, Lenskart listed, right, and it listed at a 1.7% discount at the public price. So for the first time, I actually shorted a new stock. As promised, I placed a short on Lenskart. So this is the first time ever shorted like a stock which is just being minted out yesterday, right? So on the first day, I shorted it. I told you it's gonna pop a little if it's gonna pop, right? So it did. It turned up to 413, 412 or something of that sort. I wasn't paying attention. I caught it. I was just got free from something, and then I saw, oh, it's 410. Let's short it. So I placed a small short, and the stock went down 2% from there. I picked up the free money. I'm gonna do it again. This is Lenskart is free money right now. Shorting on Lenskart. In the long term, I don't know about daily price movements. Unfortunately, Indian shorting is not that easy, right? So it's gonna be, I mean, you've got to be doing it day to day. But yeah, it's free money. The company has, in my opinion, a downside of 30%, which is not factored in. So it's gonna go down by 30%. Some comments here. They got to go. Get to go to finance deals. They can't afford to reduce margins, assuming these input cost rise is temporary. No, they're not being able to. They are trying to. So this is relevant to the smartphone story that we talked about. So smartphone manufacturing companies, by the way, are tying up, are doing joint ventures. So Dixon is doing joint ventures with Vivo and so on and so forth. And a lot of companies are trying to do joint ventures to get vertically integrated. Vertically integrated to essentially have some sort of cost advantages, but they're not going to pan out, and then can't like prevent a corresponding price rise, right? Which is basically inflationary. So they are not being able to do that. And of course, that happens now, the outcome of which is going to go out later. So in the market right now, the situation is that the price rise is inevitable, and when it comes to demand, it's going to be hurt. Mr. Tushar Tiwari asks, intraday short or positional? So it was an intraday, right? Positional, they can't allow me. Don't you think, Mr. Tiwari? So I was just, I set up, I sold, I didn't really, but it gets day to day, right? It gets squared off in a day. So that's exactly what I did, 2%. Moving on. Physics Wala is getting going public. Physics Wala is going public at a 30,000 crore valuation. 30,000 crore valuation is roughly $4 billion, right? $4 billion. Is it? No. 3.6 billion dollars. That's what Physics Wala is looking at. It's a price to sales of about 11. Yeah, 3.5. Price to sales 11. Physics Wala doesn't have a direct peer, online, offline, right? Listed peer at least, so it's hard to value it like that. Comparator analysis is difficult. Also, the company is not profitable right now. It's losing some 300, 200, 2,500 crores. So that's what's happening. Crazy how they are valued less than Lenskart. That is correct. Lenskart is a joke. But when it comes to Physics Wala, while the online play is working out, has worked out, they raised $100 million at a $1 billion valuation. That was the first fundraise that the company did. The offline play is not really clicking in for Physics Wala and not doing it well. And it's not even profitable. So every company who begins online thinks that they're going to crack the offline play as well. That's what, Unacademy also thought. But offline play is categorically and very particularly different and hard. So when it comes to companies like Akash, companies like Fitji and Allen and all of these people, they have It is an extremely difficult business. I can't stress it enough. It's extremely difficult business. So while Physics Wala obviously has a great prospect of the future, right? They've done exceedingly well, much better than everybody else in the play, right? The whole offline angle of Physics Wala is much weaker than people think it is. It's super weak. It's like, it's first of all, it's not a serious contender when it comes to preparations, right? And then the quality always just, it's very hard. So if you talk to people from Fiji who've done really well when it comes to quality despite all the troubles, they'll tell you how hard the entire business is when it comes to running the ops is considered. And the same goes with Akash, the same goes with Resonance, Alan, Brilliant, all of these people, they had a lot of money. Sri Chaitanya, right? So they'll tell you how hard that business is. And if that business is the mainstay of Physics Wala, right? If that business leads to higher revenue concentration for Physics Wala, it's gonna, be bad, because then the company can't get that kind of an 11 revenue multiple. No, right? That is not possible. So in that case, the company will have to be happy with a 4 or 5 kind of a revenue multiple. But it's getting 11 because of the whole tech play. But tech play doesn't lead to money. So where from the money, where it's coming from, it's not a green play. So you understand the conundrum, right? So that's what Physics Wala is. Although the company has done phenomenally well. They've been bootstrapped for a very long time. $100 million fund, first fundraise. Awesome. Promoter shareholding is huge, right? They actually had to dilute some of the funds to, some of the stake to become eligible for a listing. But still, their skin in the game is huge, over 70%. That's extraordinary. Interestingly, and which is, so funny, the two promoters are called Mr. Alak Pandey and Mr. Pratik Boob. funny, second name. But that's about it for Physics Wala. Let's move forward, folks. Some comments. It's not clicking for any of the edtechs. There is an interesting pattern in the coaching institute industry. It's resisting consolidation, I think. Local players, small time players seem to be making a killing. So that's the problem with running this business. So when you're running a business like Fiji or Akash or something like that, so what you do is you invest a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort in training the teacher. Okay, so you hire a teacher and you train that teacher. The teacher gets branded. The teacher gets branded as a Fiji, Allen, or Kota, Bansal teacher, and then he starts his own institute right outside, right, the street, right across the street. He starts his own small shop. Now he doesn't have the overhead which Akash does, Fiji does, Alan does, and all of these people do, right? So he's able to offer a better price, right? So, and then when he leaves the institute, he also takes some of the, there's also poaching at play, because he takes some students away, even though those students are locked with the institute for a very good price, and these institutes are hedging that risk by taking money upfront so that there's no attrition of the customers. Still, it causes a lot of problems, because then this person is branded as an ex-Fiji and so on and so forth, which leads to more. So money is made when it comes to small mom and pops, right? The big guys, they are able to make money, but it's just incredibly hard, and you have to build an institution. So it's like an institution play, right? It's not a company. It needs to be treated like an institution, and how it's designed, how it's so it's very hard. So that's two bits about this industry. Extremely hard play, right? People think it's free money. It's not. It's not. Moving on, folks. A lot of political discussions which we best not discuss. Right? A lot of political chit chat. Very boring. Speaking of something which is not boring at all, folks, fake ghee worth 250 crore used in Tirupati laddus for 5 years. Supreme Court's SIT came out and found out that fake ghee, that is essentially some acetylene, let me tell you the compounds. So what these people used to use was, instead of ghee, chemicals like beta carotene, acetic acid ester, and ghee flavor to adjust lab values. And people just got bribed when it came to supplying these fake ghee for prasad. Just imagine how pathetic these pieces of shit must be, right? They took money, they took bribes just so they could earn some extra bucks on prasad. I mean, the prasad which is going to a temple, person is praying, person has some sort of uh, faith attached to it. No, they gave no shits about it, and they essentially just took money to let bad things happen to. They don't even have an experience in dairy industry. So Uttarakhand dairies, a lot of bunch of small businesses, they did it. They got chastised once, but they operated it through different networks. And people who were responsible for making this, finding these problems out and sorting them for all the uh, devotees, they just took bribes and everything just went on. This is India. This is the biggest problem. When we talk about Peter Drucker sir's statement, when he says culture eats strategy for breakfast. So it's not about strategy. How can you solve for this problem with strategy and so on and so forth? What is the strategic answer to this? A lot of things are very, very cultural, right? Very cultural. And if culture is such that it incentivizes and has no deterrence on this kind of behavior, this is when these things happen. Now this is not supposed to happen. It's not like these people don't make money, right? There's a lot of money at play. These things are very, very rich. All the trusts, they have a lot of patronage, right, coming in from all the devotees, but still they just have to do what they want to do, right? People at the weak link, it's just weak. Mr. Duncan says weak institutions. Correct, correct. It's just so sad, but as a devotee, as somebody who goes to the temple, just imagine how disappointing it is that you went to a temple and you prayed with all your heart, and then the prasad you got, it was moving on, folks. We've talked about indices, how they moved, right? The IT gains. We talked about Lenskart. Did we talk about Misho? Misho is also likely to go public next month in December. Offer size between 5.5 to 6,000 crores. Misho is a very tricky company. Misho essentially began as a social commerce play, Shop 101 kind of a place, Shopify in that way, where they made your shop and you could share it on your Instagram and it helped you sell, whatever network you had, whatever inbound you had on your WhatsApp statuses, on your Instagram. It helped you process those. That's how it began. And that's how it essentially grew its network, right? So let's say if I create my shop, my people are going to come to that shop, they're going to become my customers, and they're also going to become Misho's customer. And that's how they spread across. And then they became a horizontal platform for e-commerce, right? And then they started their own logistics play as well. I guess it's Valmo. They claim to be profitable. They claim to be profitable into when their average order value is very low, 200 rupees, and company, they service tier 3, tier 4, tier 2 markets where the returns are very high, but they still claim to be profitable. And whoever I talk to, when it comes to seller on Misho, they say it's a bad platform, right? A lot of returns, a lot of fakes, a lot of this, a lot of that, right? Sometimes sellers say no, it sells, it's okay, it's fine, but a lot of cases are where sellers are very harassed because of that. And a few years ago, there was also a complaint of fake orders being processed by Misho, right? Because they don't charge commission and that kind of thing. So people just used to have fake orders getting distributed, and people used to have to pay for them when the thing around for at the doorstep and they couldn't return it and so on. So it's a lot of problems, but somehow the platform has been able to be profitable, right? When horizontal platforms are still losing $1 billion a year. I'm talking about Amazon and Flipkart. So the company is deeply interesting. Deeply interesting. How they've been able to achieve this is a mystery to me personally. I'll have to read very, very deeply about Misho. If somebody is an expert on Misho, I'd love to take you on in the show. Let's have a TV kind of a discussion, a panel discussion. You should know numbers and you should have real anecdotal evidence, real stories of sellers and so on and so forth. And we'd love to do it. So I'll also study, you can study, and then you can send me your thing on LinkedIn and we'll have a TV kind of a discussion on Misho, right? For now, let's move forward. So when it comes to banking, PSU banking are hiring with local languages uh, as a criteria, because banking branch hiring, essentially, it is a hyper local operation, and for the first time, you know, for better customer interactions, local language is becoming very important for these banks. So customer connect, lenders tweak hiring and training models at branch to bridge gap, right? So instead of a macro view on the hiring mandate, it's gonna go hyper local, which of course is a very smart thing to do, right? When it comes to things like these, which are so obvious, everybody says, why didn't you do it earlier, right? That is a fair question to ask, but for now it's happening. Moving on, folks. Government reopening happening in US, right? And Wall Street, I mean US stock market is looking green, because the government reopening might lead to renewed prospects and spending and so on and so forth. So for a long time, if people don't know, Democrats and Republicans have been in a shutdown kind of a situation. The issue was government spending on illegal immigrants' healthcare. So that was the bone of contention. Republicans wanted the expenditure to be curtailed, so that the non-residents don't get the healthcare thing. The Democrats wanted healthcare for all. This is prima facie the basis of the argument due to which the shutdown happened. I told you if you remember, viewers of Thinkers Frequency, that this shutdown is not going to last for a very long time, and even if it does, Republicans have all the chips. So that's what's happening. They have all the chips, and there were threats that they're going to fire federal employees if the shutdown persists, but they didn't really do that. But now the government is going to get open. When the government opens, new numbers are going to come out, right, of the jobs, on everything. You're going to get new information on US economy. Maybe the Fed can decide better. So the Fed Reserve, was talking about how it's not being able to get fresh data because the government is in shutdown. So that's going to change. Let's see what happens. Maybe this is why Palantir stock went up, right? Because Palantir is a B2G company. It sells to the government. So let's see. Let's see what happens to the stock, folks. Moving on. We've already talked about the joint ventures that Indian manufacturing companies in electronics and smartphone are trying to do with Chinese companies. Chinese companies were not so accessible earlier because of whatever our countries were going through. But now that the government has improved its relations with China, joint ventures are going to happen. Joint ventures are better than, let's say, being dependent on supplies intermittently, or let's say a vendor-client relationship. Joint venture is better than that for these manufacturing companies. So let's see how that plans out. Companies such as Dixon Tech, Bhagwati are the Micromax guys. They were a B2C company earlier. That when that faltered, they went B2B. Now they're basically contract manufacturers. And Uno Minda Optimistic. So that's what's happening. The queue is, Dixon awaiting its joint venture approval with HKC and Vivo. Uno Minda with Innovance, and so on. That's what's happening. Very, very interesting. Moving on, folks. Ather's numbers came out. Did you see? Ather did very well. Proper growth, right? Good profitability. It's nearing profitability. The net negative things got improved by a lot, and still the stock went down 5%. Why do you think? Why do you think Ather's stock went down 5%, even when the numbers which came out were pretty good? Any thoughts? Any thoughts, folks? Anybody? Why do you think? Can you guess? There are some factors, of course. One could be profit booking. One, it was already priced in, right? And so on and so forth. So because the earnings are negative, right, there's a lot of speculation also involved in a stock like that. So it's a pretty young play. Market already discounted. So Mr. Sumanth Kumar says market priced in. That is obviously an interesting perspective and a natural perspective. The other perspective is that people were booking profits, right? Some pullback because people saw a lot of growth with the stock. And third is that it is by nature a pretty volatile stock because of negative earnings, right? So a lot of speculation at play and so on and so forth. So market manipulation. Oh no, Mr. Ashutosh Bhandekar says market manipulation. Do you think there are some punters who are shorting Ether? Well, I don't think so. Ether is a pretty green stock and it's just getting greener by the day. Moving on, folks. Also heard some positive news about Ola, says Mr. Sumanth Kumar. Oh no, not really. Not really. So Ola was trying to spin a positive news saying that now the company is not looking at bulk, right? It's not looking at volumes, it's looking at value. So it's looking at profitability when it came to limited supply and fixing its supply chain and so on and so forth. And it was talking about better serviceability. And so it was not positive news. There's no positive. In fact, Ola got downgraded by Moody's, right, to CAAA1 or something of that sort. So due to which its ability to raise money and pay off its debt is gonna go down. So Ola has it took a $500 million term B loan, which is basically a loan. Now, in order to pay that loan, some due is on December of 2025. I don't remember, some tons of millions of dollars, and they have very limited cash. So their ability to pay the lenders is very, very, at great risk. So Ola, there is no good news when it comes to Ola. That's why essentially, that's what our original analysis was. Heavy reliance on PR and no focus on actual innovation, says Mr. Duncan. Well, I wouldn't say no focus on actual innovation. I mean, those people must also be trying. But the leadership, the problem with Ola is, of course, the leadership. They are just funny, right? So when Ola came out with its plans, right? So Ola came out with a big bang, a lot of money, a lot of, shusha, right? So my brother and I were talking, and we were talking like, this is not how these things happen, man. But so much of money, and you get scared about your analysis. So you're not that confident when so much of money starts pushing in, right? But we knew this manufacturing play. I'm a mechanical engineer. I really love, we've build things and we like doing these things. And I'm like, this is not how manufacturing, all PR. It was all PR, right? Only women factory. Now I'm like, I don't give a shit if my scooty was made in a factory which only has women, right? Who gives a shit about that? But just because it was so much of PR overload and money, right? They came with money. They threw money at all problems. We knew that this was not the way to go about this particular thing, right? This is simply no way to build this. And eventually we proved to be right. It's not even about pessimism or optimism or anything. That we would have loved if the company did well, right? We care about good companies. We like good companies. We want to be customers, right? And so on and so forth. But everything just seemed wrong from day one. And now it's coming to, what's the expression? Chickens are coming to roost, right? So let's see what happens to Ola's debt on December. For now, they'll be able to pay, but their ability to raise funds should be very limited. And unfortunately for Mr. Bhavish Agrawal, Ola Electric is now a public company. So he has supernatural abilities to raise money when it comes to the private markets. Nobody comes close to Mr. Bhavish Agrawal when it comes to fundraising, right? So he did Ola Cabs, which was a faulty business model. Somehow he could raise billions and billions of dollars, right? $3-4 billion. He got that money. Ola Electric never worked. Ola Cabs never worked, ever, right? It never worked, never made money, will never make money. It's just a dumpster fire, but he took a lot of money. As it started faltering, he started Ola Electric, which seemed like another disaster story, right? In an article which I wrote in 2020, I guess, 2020-21, I wrote a huge analysis on Ola Cabs. And then I said, that's perhaps why he's shifted to making scooties, which is screw up story for another time, right? That's what I wrote. And 5 years later, it is a screw up story. So he raised a lot of money. And then when Ola Electric also started faltering, he started Krutrim. And for that also he could raise money. So it's just impossible. The level, the power that he has when it comes to private markets for fundraising, it's unbelievable. Save for once, if we apply the same Ola's criticism to local governments or governance, it'd be so entertaining but depressing. Good that we don't get that dose in the morning from these sessions. Oh, no, no, no. Mr. Amritraj, why discuss all those things? Those are just depressing, right? When you talk about government, you talk about politics, it becomes a very negative discussion. Now, everything I say will get discounted because of my political view. Wherever I stand, if I'm a right winger, if I'm a liberal, whatever, if I'm a centrist, right? It's just gonna get discounted. The best talk about numbers. Just talk about numbers, right? If the numbers support the story, it's good. If they don't, just talk about numbers, right? And politics, discussing politics, by the way, is much harder than discussing business, because business is in a way black and white, right? So maybe there is a shade of gray, that's okay. Politics is two movies on one screen. There is no black and white, there is no single interpretation. It's just cognitive dissonance on steroids. So whoever discusses politics, instead of criticizing them, we should just give them, credit, because it's much harder. Business is easy. Politics is difficult. Anyway, folks, Q2 employment numbers are up. Rates have eased to 5.2%, right? Uttarakhand recorded highest jobless rate at 8.9%, followed by Andhra Pradesh, Kerala. So 8.9, 8.2, 5%. Unemployment rate has eased. PLFS, its periodic labor survey force survey. Jobless in rural declined to 4.4%. Urban unemployment rose 6.9% to 6.8%. So unemployment numbers are sort of easing in, but I've told you that these numbers are to be looked at very holistically. So I've told you that it doesn't make sense to just look at the employment numbers, right? Whether it be rural, whether it be urban, just like that, just in a silo. When it comes to unemployment or employment, you've got to look at all the numbers. What are all the numbers? The number of companies that are opening in, the existing companies that are getting loan, the Mudra loans, right? The Manrega employment numbers, and so on and so on. So if you take all of those things in account, you get a perspective of who is taking a job and who is starting a business, because that is how employment numbers are to be judged. So for now, right, the numbers are looking good. Rose slightly. Labor force participation, if you look at it, 55.1%. Female participation moved to 33.7% from 33.4%. Male participation declined from 77.3 to 77.2. So those are the numbers. Yeah, that's what's happening. By the way, I don't know if it's in news. If it leads to any analysis, or whether it's even important to discuss. But Britannia's CEO, who had been the CEO for 12 years, he started in 2014. He turned Britannica around. The Vadia Group company was very struggling 12 years ago. But then he brought cheese and all of these people, right? And he could do the dairy thing. He could turn the company around. He suddenly exited. He suddenly put in papers, and his numbers have been accepted, and so on and so forth. And he's out. Now, why? Could be anything. It's pointless to speculate, but cannot be bullish about a company like that, right? Moving on, folks. There's some bullshitting still happening at UN, right? Higher emission pledges, COP. This UN event is not stopping, man. I'm getting bored of it already. Brazil. This is happening in Brazil. Latest tally of vows result in 12% reduction in greenhouse gases. And these people have not gotten memos. But they've gotten memos, and you know what do? You do. You preserve your job, right? So this is what they're doing. Germany, Spain commit 100 million to climate change adaptation plan. Germany has gotten really screwed, and it hasn't learned a thing. It's become a total piece of shit country. It used to be so good, right? But because of these bad policies and continuance of them over a course of 10 years, right? Thanks to Madam Angela Merkel, the country has really fallen apart in every way possible, right? So when they talked about increasing renewable energy and so on and so forth, all those policies actually led to more import of coal. Did you know that? They closed down their nuclear power plants as well, and they just really ruined themselves. Now, when it came to tech and auto, they're struggling there as well. No surprise. No surprise, folks. Moving on. Uh, we know about what's going on with you, Vodafone, right? Vodafone is continuing to lose customers, right? Losses have been narrowed because they're cutting costs, and ARPU it's going up. ARPU is going up not because they are doing anything special, but because the leaders of the industry are raising their ARPU. So these people are also having some room to grow, right? That's how Vodafone sustained loss of customers, sustained loss in every way possible, but 4G and 5G leading to ARPU up and losses getting narrowed. So no hope for Vodafone until all the debt is forgiven and it gets fresh money. It'll get fresh money only if all the debt is forgiven. So let's see what happens with Vodafone. I blame. You know who I blame for this? You know who I blame for this, folks? I blame Abhishek Bachchan. Abhishek Bachchan. I blame him for that. Anyway, folks, cheap imports keep pressure on stainless steel prices, says the chief of Jindal Steel, Jindal Stainless, right? Pins hopes on DGTR anti-dumping probe. So he says while the duties on the foreign steel has gone up, the prices have gone down, and that's starting to hurt the domestic industry. Anti-dumping is a very important play for preserving industries of national importance. Of course, steel is one of them. So China, Vietnam, and so on and so forth, different countries were sending in a lot of steel. Government put in some duties to protect the Indian steel makers. It's not really panning out, and that's what these people are saying. So there's a differential of about 5 to 10% when it comes to those people. China makes so much steel. China makes more steel than the rest of the world combined. So if the rest of the world just stopped making all steel, China could still serve the entire world with its steel produce, and you definitely don't want that, right? But that's what's happening. Very interesting. Let's see how this pans out. Moving on, folks. Home sales value grow up 19% despite volume staying flat. I'll say it again. Home sales value go up by 19% despite volume staying flat. What do you mean by that? You mean that all the action is happening in the premium, ultra premium, and rich play, right? That is so sad. That is so sad, right? The real estate action is not happening in the economy play, in the affordable housing play. It is still very lackadaisical. But when it comes to ultra premium segment, that's just going up. Sales set to cross 6.5 lakh crore, 6.6 lakh crore amid rising prices and stabilizing out offtake in top cities. That is what's going on in the real estate market. In FY23, 3.5 lakh crore worth of homes were sold, and in volumes of FY26 will be double than FY23, double. So that's what's happening. Very that's the value, not the volume terms. So value. Very interesting whatever is happening in the real estate front. All we want in this country is for this development to get distributed. We don't want it to get coagulated in one place. It's just gonna hurt the cities, right? Speaking of cities, folks, the Ritz-Carlton Bangalore, the hotel that was looking at getting acquired for 1400 crore, right? It's getting acquired for 1200 crores. Blackstone is acquiring it, right? 1200 crore, Ritz-Carlton Bangalore. Deal will be concluded this quarter. What was its revenue? What I'm just hoping to see the revenue multiple, folks. No, there is no revenue multiple. It's a 277 room 5-star property. So I can guess the revenue. Can I guess the revenue, folks? 277 room. Okay. Now 277 room at a Ritz-Carlton kind of a facility should be around 20,000 bucks a piece, right? Let's say 300 rooms, 20,000 bucks a piece. But the occupancy of hotels like this is what, 30%, 35% at max, 35%, let's say 40%. So 40% of, so it's 100 rooms selling in 20,000 bucks. That's 20,000 to 20 lakh to crores. Somewhere around, it should be crores is monthly thing. It should be doing some 400 to 600 crores revenue, right? Based on just paper napkin math. Let me check if I'm wrong. Ritz Carlton Bangalore revenue. Yeah, let's see. No, so we won't get that, I guess. It's gonna be a bit hard to find that out. But definitely, yeah, no, it's a difficult search, not gonna happen. Ritz Carlton is costly starting from 50K. Well, that's not the 50K thing. I think it's not the average fare when it comes to lower demand days and so on and so forth. I guess a better estimate could be around 25, 30, right? If not 20. But yeah, I think the revenue multiple of this hotel must be somewhere around 2 or 3 or something of that sort. If I'm not wrong. I'm very, very curious though. I'm very curious. So I'll find that out. I'll find that out, folks. Moving on. A lot of action on real estate, right? Office spaces going up. We know why office spaces are going up, of course, because of GCCs primarily. GCCs are leading to a lot of action when it comes to domestic real estate, which is obviously adding to a lot of steam as far as the whole real estate market is considered. Just 1 second, folks. My laptop's battery is dying. I should have put it on charging. Just 1 second. Sorry for that. Sorry about that, folks. I hope I'm back. I hope you can see me. Sorry. Moving on, folks. Akasa Air is counting on new airports, which are basically Navi Mumbai and Jewar Airport, for a lot of growth, because Delhi and Mumbai airports have gotten they've reached the saturation play, unfortunately, and they needed a lot of flux. And what these people have done is, because of the Ude Desh Ka Naam Aam Nagrik, ideally the airfare is supposed to be distributed across length and breadth of the country. But of course, power centers remain Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, more or less, right? And what they are trying to do is so if you see Mumbai, it got the Navi Mumbai airport, which is huge. And then the Jewar airport, which is again a very, very good opportunity. The lower strata of the economy airports, economic airlines, they're really gonna benefit with this particular flux in the situation. So let's see how it happens. One of my friends was doing a project with Bain, where they evaluated what routes to hand over to Jewar airport. So they were working with GMR, and what routes should you give to Jewar airport, so that the revenue split essentially doesn't hurt the incumbent airport, right? Very interesting project. and I'm very curious on how this particular play moves on. Moving, folks. World's first green fuel levy to add almost $32 to airfares. Travelers' sustainable aviation fuel levy will be applied on tickets sold from April 1. Right? Moving on. VCs taking YCQ to AI bets. So the report says that VCs are finding out the YC shortlist and then funding those guys. Now, what does that tell you about VCs in general? The basic problem, the biggest problem with the VC community has always been and is lack of original thinking. So these people, they are always outsourcing their thinking. When you're talking to them, it's like, what is the other person saying? What is the other person saying? What is the other person saying? So it's all somebody following somebody else, right? And that is essentially why people like Rain Matter, people like Sanjeev Bikhchandani sir, these people shine out, because they don't think about that, right? They have their own thesis, they have their own ideas, and if it fits that idea, it's good. If it doesn't, they don't care if nobody is interesting, right? So that makes good people stand out, because the overall ecosystem itself is just a network driven operation, which is very, very funny, right? Novo and MCure are launching a new weight loss drug, a new brand, Novo Nordisk. A lot of news making happening from that, right? They're going to come up with, so weight loss drugs are just where they are, right? Moving on, there's an interview with India's chief of SoftBank, India and Southeast Asia, I guess. No rushing our firms to public markets, no pressure to exit. Yeah, that's what he says. Vision Fund is still pretty committed to India. Vision Fund was the $100 billion fund, and then the $200 billion fund, which didn't pan out, I guess. $100 billion fund for startups. It led to a lot of problems. You want to hear a good story? So when it came to Masa San, the founder of SoftBank, when he was in India and he got this vision for $100 billion, right? A lot of money. Nobody knows how to deploy it. He came to Delhi and he met Ritesh Agrawal, the founder of Oyo, and he said, hey, Alok, you're gonna give $500 million to Oyo with non-voting rights. I was like, what? Do you want to confirm it with the IC? No. Ritesh reminds me of my childhood or my younger days. Let's give it that. So $500 million, free money, no voting rights, and very favorable conditions. That was the kind of money that came from SoftBank with the Vision Fund. That's how money falls on you, if it falls on you, right? So that's what you should hope for. That somebody sees you and gets reminded of their childhood or their adolescence, their youth, and then he ends up giving you $500 million without any voting rights, right? That's the thing. That's what leads to magic, folks. That is what leads to magic. Wealth tech scouts pros for going beyond metros. Of course, wealth tech as a sector is going across the board, and there is no surprise. No surprise. Speaking of no surprise, folks, there was, do you remember we talked about a $10 million sculpture, the gold toilet that an Italian artist made, right? With a very boring philosophy. He said, no matter what you eat, the toilet is toilet. It's like a toilet philosophy, right? A billionaire has bought it, Stephen Cohen, right? For $10 million. So he's bought a gold toilet for $10 million. $10 million is approximately 90 crores. So he's bought a toilet for 90 crores, folks. A billionaire. What do you think about that? A lot of people tell me that art is not really an investment. Art is just a means to launder money for a lot of these folks. So what they do is they invest some money and mark it down or mark it up or something of that sort, and leads to a lot of tax evasion and money laundering, right? Art is used by a lot of people for that purpose. I don't know how it fits there, but buying a toilet for $10 million, nice. It's at least better than buying a banana for $4 million, right? Do you remember that? Somebody taped banana. So he bought that banana for $5 million or something and he ate it. Nice. That's what's happening, folks. A lot of political chit chat, geopolitical, right? BBC head has resigned over uproar over Trump's speech edit. BBC has apologized, right? And they basically spliced Trump's speech, and you know, that's just hilarious, man. Whatever is happening, uh, a documentary, right? It was an error of judgment. Fight like hell. So they basically spliced his speech to make it sound bad, and now the chickens have come to the roost, right? That's what's happening. Trump, by the way, has also pardoned Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani was his lawyer when everybody was when they were trying to contest the results of 2020 election. He was also the mayor of Philadelphia, I guess, right? Or he was the mayor of New York. One second. Rudy Giuliani, mayor. Yeah, so he was the mayor of New York from 1994 to 2001. So, a very important figure. He has been pardoned, and so on and so forth. Right? So, with that, we come to the end of the 166th episode of Thinkers Frequency, folks. Right? So much happening in the world of business, in the world of geopolitics, in the world of finance, and unfortunately, in the world of national security, right? So much of turmoil. I started with a note of condolence for people. It's gonna end with that as well. I hope we are able to find ourselves back from this, and let's see what happens. So, Mr. Sumanth Kumar says, any thoughts on what happened with 2020 elections? Trump claim. Right. So Trump claimed that it was a rigged election, essentially, and they couldn't prove it because the courts didn't admit any of the claims. So the court rejected those appeals. So they basically alleged a lot of fraud, voter fraud, especially because the mail-in ballot thing, right? They claimed that a lot of fraudulent votes were cast during the mail-in ballot play, but they couldn't prove it, of course, and no court admitted their reading. They just dismissed it. So all the courts just literally dismissed it. But what the great analysis talked about that election, they said that if you cannot prove that it was not a fraud, right? You cannot. It's a permanent stain on the election integrity, and that's exactly the goal was of the Republicans, that mail-in ballots are inherently problematic, right? And if they are problematic, if they are so problematic, how can you rely on them, right? So if you look at California, they don't have any voter ID, uh, you know, uh, confirmation. So anybody can go and vote. They don't ask for your voter ID. So they had a lot of things to say. Their concern was the Rust Belt states, the Pennsylvania, the Philadelphia, right? Those areas. So nothing could come out of them, but they still say that that particular election was rigged. And their contention is, the Republican contention is, that if you look at all the votes that these people got, right? Let's say Barack Obama election 1, Barack Obama election 2, Donald Trump election 1, then Biden election, and then Donald Trump election. So all of those have votes like 71, 72, 73, 74 million votes, something of that sort. And then suddenly Biden gets 81 million votes, right? And then in the next election, it again boils down to 74 million votes, 74, 76, whatever. So there is a bump like this, right? Which obviously tells you that, in their eyes, that something must have gone wrong. But, those claims stand as claims, right? He won again. And that sort of plot. So what do you think? What do you think about this information? Does it raise your eyebrows? It definitely does. And of course, the whole mail and ballot thing. Thanks for explaining in depth. Right? It's funny, right? It's just funny. So if you look at all the numbers, all the voting that was ever done, it went like this, and then Biden thing happened because of the mail-in ballots, and then it came down, and that's what happened. So these people are still on with the claim that it was a rigged election. I was watching it very, very closely, and it seemed very interesting to me. But It's water under a bridge, spilt milk. And with that, we come to the end of the 166th episode, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. It's 9:17. We should punch in anytime. I wish you a beautiful day personally and professionally. And I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time, hopefully. I should thank Mr. Tushar Tiwari, Mr. Sumanth Kumar, Mr. Duncan, Mr. Peeyush Sethi, uh, Mr. Ashutosh Bhandekar, Mr. Amrit Raj, and everybody else who joined. I hope it was fun. I hope it added a lot of value to you. Definitely added a lot of value to me. I had a lot of fun as always. Please take care. Have a beautiful day. Bye bye.